at the time of September 11th, 2001, I was 15 years old. I was living in Sydney, Australia, and I was studying in high school. Um, my initial reaction to the events, I guess I got woken up by my radio alarm, and the events had happened overnight for us. So, I got woken up by, they were talking about some sort of tragedy, but they weren't being specific. So, I went into my parents' room, switched on the TV, and they were showing a replay of what had happened. Um, it was pretty shocking. So I went downstairs and I was watching it with my family for a while, and I guess at that stage we didn't really know what was going on. It wasn't very clear as to like you know, if it was isolated or if there were follow-up events or anything like that. But anyway, we our parents sent us to school anyway. We all went to school, and um, it was the same thing at school. Everyone was sort of shocked, but still not really knowing exactly what was going on. Well, I guess after things settled down for me, the main thing that came up was just curiosity. I was very curious about what had happened, and you know, in Australia on our cable TV, we get Fox and CNN, the US feeds through our cable. So, and that was just 24/7 coverage of the events. So I just spent, I had a fair amount of time on those channels just watching what the reaction was globally, I guess, or I guess the reaction that they were showing was more from the States' point of view. But um, yeah, I got a lot of information from that. However accurate it was, that's where I got most of my information from initially. Um, in relation to when I knew, or when I felt that things had changed forever after the events, well, I'd obviously seen nothing like that in my lifetime, but the fear that came up after those events, and everyone talking about it and the shock, the point it wasn't a point. I knew things were sort of different after that. It was sort of a gradual realization when the fear and the shock sort of never really fully went away, and I guess it still hasn't. And the talk about terrorism and all of that, it was much less before the events, and much more after, and it sort of hasn't really settled down fully.